The observation deck was silent except for the rhythmic hum of the xenosteel reactor beneath their feet. Lights flickered across the curved glass panels as thousands of sensors tracked the creature writhing in the biocontainment chamber. Its wings spanned 30 meters, black scales glinting like obsidian. Motes of energy shimmered around its body as if it exhaled raw plasma. It was a living enigma, part animal, part machine, and entirely beyond the Galactic Scientific Union's control. Senior observer Volix's mandibles clicked once in agitation. It's not supposed to be aware at this phase. The neural dampeners are functioning at maximum output, interrupted technician ZHYR, gesturing with a trembling claw at the display. It's overriding them with endogenous psionic feedback. It's adapting, sir. On the screen, the creature's slitted eyes turned slowly toward the glass. Not toward the cameras. Toward them. Volix froze. That kind of direct gaze, devoid of panic, hinted at something worse than intelligence. Intention. The chamber dimmed momentarily as the creature lowered its head and began chewing slowly on one of the quantum tethers fused to its jaw. This was its third attempt at self-surgery in 2 cycles. The titanium tooth, a compound sensor and restraint mechanism, was visibly cracked, oozing a yellowish coolant and twitching with failing circuitry. "We should incinerate it," Volix said. "Nothing good comes from a beast that tends to its own wounds." Before ZHYR could respond, a soft chime echoed across the deck. A delivery pod arrived, depressurizing with a hiss. Inside stood a human child, small and thin, her clothing a patchwork of old earth fiber and union fabric. She stepped out without hesitation, clutching a stuffed animal under one arm. Her eyes were large, curious, unafraid. "What is this?" Volix snapped. "Biological sample 11F, gamma," ZHYR replied, consulting the manifest. "Recovered from the Omega Cradle Dig site during Earth's abandonment. DNA confirms species, Homo sapiens. Female. Age range, prepubescent. You brought a child onto the deck? It was scheduled for behavioral study." "I didn't think." "You didn't think," Volix muttered. He turned to order security, but the girl had already wandered to the edge of the observation platform, standing just a pane of reinforced glass away from the dragon's chamber. She placed her palm against it. Below, the creature paused its movement. Then it turned. No alarm sounded. No defensive mechanisms engaged. The sensors tracking biothreat thresholds recalibrated in confusion. Instead of escalating, the creature's aggression plummeted, heart rate stabilizing, plasma emission ceasing. The beast simply stared. The girl tilted her head. "You're hurt," she whispered. On every listening device, her voice carried like a signal wrapped in static. The translator AI didn't parse her tone as anything significant, yet Volix's spinal ridges tingled. ZHYR leaned in. She shouldn't be in range. Not physically. Not cognitively. This isn't possible. The chamber door's inner seals disengaged. Every being on the deck flinched. Volix slammed his clawed fist into the lockdown console, but nothing responded. The control override returned a symbol none of them recognized. 2 interlocking spirals, pulsing softly. The girl stepped into the chamber. She didn't scream, didn't falter. She walked barefoot across the metallic floor toward the creature, whose head lowered as if drawn by an unseen gravity. Its nostrils flared, but it did not move to strike. Instead, it huffed a column of hot vapor beside her, careful not to touch her skin. She raised her hand and touched its nose. "It's okay," she said softly. "You're just scared." The beast shuddered once, then knelt. ZHYR's breath hitched. "It's kneeling." Volix didn't answer. His mandibles were clenched too tightly. She climbed up its snout, gripping the ridges like someone who'd done this 100 times. She sat between its eyes, then leaned forward to look into its open mouth. "Oh no," she said. "Your tooth is sick." She stood, her balance perfect, and reached into her small pouch. From it, she produced a short metal rod, twisted at the end like a child's toy. She stuck her hand inside the dragon's mouth, right where the cracked implant pulsed erratically. Every sensor on the deck spiked. The beast's internal temperature soared. Its wings flared wide, slamming against the containment walls with thunderous booms. But the girl remained steady. "I'm going to pull it out for you, little dragon," she said. In her hand, the rod glowed faintly. Not from any Union energy signature. Something older. Something earthborn. "Who gave her that tool?" Volix demanded. Zhyr shook his head. It wasn't scanned. She had no items listed on her intake. She twisted the rod once. A spark leapt across the creature's jaw. The cracked implant buckled. She pulled. The creature screamed. Not in pain. In release. A violent wave of force radiated outward, shattering internal sensors, disabling every backup field. Panels exploded across the deck. A nearby screen burst into flame. Volix was thrown back against the wall. When a wave settled, the containment door hung open. Inside, the girl stood beside the dragon, holding the smoking implant in her hand. The beast coiled gently around her like a serpent guarding its egg. "She's calmed it," Zhyr breathed. "No," Volix said, rising slowly. "She's bonded with it." Below, the girl whispered, "I'm going to call you Toothy, okay?" The dragon blinked once, as if approving. "She's not a subject anymore," Volix muttered. "She's the variable. She's the anomaly." Zhyr backed away from the screen. "We have to inform the council. This changes everything." Volix was silent. In the chamber, the girl nestled against the dragon's warm scales. It emitted a low, melodic rumble, not a threat but a lullaby. Lights in the observation deck flickered, then dimmed entirely. Emergency systems activated. The girl looked up. "Did I help?" she asked. No one answered. But across the facility, systems were rerouting. Power grids rechanneled themselves through unknown protocols. An ancient frequency began pulsing in the background, undetectable to most sensors. Something old had awakened. The creature breathed, and the deck trembled. Volix stared into the chamber. Not with fear, with awe. He turned slowly towards Zhyr. "We've spent 1,000 cycles dissecting species, studying dominance, cataloging intelligence," he said. "But this is not intelligence." Zhyr frowned. "Then what is it?" Volix's voice dropped. "It's love." Silence lingered, not just among the crew, but through the entire vessel, as if even the walls had gone quiet to listen. The girl reached out again, touching the dragon's snout. "You're not alone anymore," she whispered. Somewhere far above, in the deepest part of the ship's network, a dormant subsystem activated. A human code, buried under alien protocols, blinked once, then twice. The deck lights resumed, brighter than before. The girl yawned and nestled against her new companion. Volix exhaled slowly. "Prepare for containment escalation," he ordered, though he knew it wouldn't matter. "And alert the council." "What do we tell them?" Zhyr asked. Volix turned, eyes still locked on the child curled beside the beast. "We tell them humanity has returned." The dragon's tail twitched, curling around the girl protectively. The chamber pulsed with warmth. She had given it a name, a purpose. And for the first time in all recorded history, the impossible creature slept. Not caged, not defeated, safe. And outside the observation deck, in a corridor no longer monitored, a symbol etched into the floor began to glow. Two spirals intertwined, pulsing with life, ready to begin. The council chamber aboard the Celestis Prime was a brutalist amphitheater carved into a rotating asteroid, lit by cold blue orbs and flanked with delegates of every galactic species. Senior Observer Volix stood at the center, flanked by holographic projectors looping security footage from the incident. All eyes, compound, ocular, psionic, watched with varying degrees of disbelief as the child calmly extracted the damaged implant from the dragon's mouth. The footage ended. The silence afterward was heavy, not with skepticism, but with dread. High Arbiter Carinth of the Creel spoke first. His voice was a deep vibration felt in the bones rather than heard. You violated containment protocols, brought a feral apex life form and an unknown Terran relic into cohabitation. Explain this madness. Volix bowed slightly. It wasn't madness. It was inevitability. We didn't bring them together. They found each other. It's as if the creature was waiting for her. A wave of unrest rippled across the delegates. Translations were whispered in over 100 tongues. The very mention of waiting hinted at prophecy, at design. Dangerous words in a scientific empire. Carintha's eyes narrowed. The girl. What is she? Volix hesitated, then tapped the console beside him. A second display emerged. Full biological analysis, neural scans, DNA traces, even emotional stability charts. All normal. All human. She's a child, Volix said. Unaltered. No enhancements. No psychic implants. Just human. Impossible, hissed Counselor Tseek of the Oryx. Earth was evacuated 3 generations ago. All humans screened. Those with potential quarantined. ZHYR, seated behind Volix, leaned forward. This one was missed. Found in a collapsed Earth dig site. Possibly raised feral. Or maybe not. Maybe she was hidden. Volix finished quietly. From us. The chamber fell silent again. Then a question none dared ask was finally spoken by Counselor Linvarn, her voice soft as falling sand. Has she controlled it since? Volix nodded. The creature, Toothy, as she calls it, refuses interaction with any of us. But it obeys her. Obeys. She commands without knowing she's commanding. Like a child asking a dog to sit. But this is no dog. Across the galaxy, on the Celestis' orbital platform, Toothy shifted in sleep. Its scales reflected star patterns from the viewing dome above, its breathing deep and even. The girl, unofficially renamed Mira by the staff, sat curled in its forearm, humming something ancient and earthborn under her breath. She had asked for no toys, no datapads. Only quiet. Inside the observation room, Dr. Seller, the xenopsychologist, watched from behind a one-way panel. Her notes were growing disorganized, increasingly emotional. Mira displayed empathy levels far exceeding predictive norms. She did not fear the dragon. She comforted it, spoke to it, as one would a wounded sibling. The dragon responded in kind, its lethal instincts subdued, its aggression directed only toward those who approached Mira with anything less than open hands. Seller tapped her communicator. Dr. Seller to Deck Alpha. Behavioral consistency is holding. Initiate Phase 2. The door to the chamber opened again. This time, a security drone floated through, extending a mechanical arm holding a small spherical treat, laced with tracking nanites. Mira blinked. Toothy, she said, holding the ball up. Do you want this? The dragon sniffed the air. In an instant, a bolt of plasma lashed from its maw, atomizing the drone before Mira could finish her sentence. The chamber filled with static and smoke. Red lights flashed. Mira didn't move, didn't scream. Toothy, she said gently, patting its side. You don't have to do that. The beast rumbled, coiling tighter around her. Its eyes glared at the smoke, daring it to try again. In the observation room, Seller stood frozen. It recognized the deception. Confirmed, said the AI recorder. Nanite's signature parsed. Hostile intent extrapolated. Seller exhaled sharply. That was supposed to be undetectable. Behind her, the door opened, and Volok stepped inside. Are you trying to trick her? He asked. It was an assessment. No, it was a provocation. And you're lucky it didn't burn through the deck. She's changing it, Seller said. It's learning love, loyalty, protection. That shouldn't be possible. We've tested thousands of species with no success. Volok looked through the glass at the pair inside the chamber. Perhaps we were testing the wrong variable. Seller frowned. The creature? No, the girl. He watched as Mira sat cross-legged beside Toothy, quietly singing to it. The song had no words, just a pattern, rhythmic and soothing, deeply human. The dragon is not the threat, he said. She is. On the third cycle, Mira began drawing symbols in the dust that settled around the chamber edges. Shapes no one taught her. Interlocking spirals, nested triangles, and a series of strokes resembling planetary orbits. Linguistics AI flagged them as untranslatable but patterned. They matched nothing in the Galactic archives, not even extinct languages. But Volok recognized one shape. It had appeared before, etched into the floor of the observation deck after her arrival. She's activating something, he murmured. Back in the chamber, Mira pressed her hand to the wall and said, It's still watching us. The lights flickered. Internal cameras twisted momentarily, as if drawn toward the ceiling. Above them, the observation orb shifted its position, not from control, but like it was peering. Mira smiled. I see you. Seller recoiled. She's speaking to the ship now? No, Volok replied, eyes wide. She's speaking through it. Council transmission logs confirmed the anomaly. A second frequency began pulsing in the Celestis' sublayer, a dead frequency, reserved for classified Terran architecture, long since purged. It came online the moment she touched the wall. Back in the council chamber, panic spread like wildfire. If a human child could awaken dormant infrastructure, communicate with apex predators, and override containment protocols without lifting a finger, what else could she do? Kill her, Carinth said coldly. Before the pattern completes. Volok raised his head. You're too late. On the Celestis, in the chamber's wall, the spirals Mira had drawn shimmered with faint blue light. The dragon stood now, its wings unfurling with slow majesty. Not to attack, but to shield her, to obey. The wall cracked. Something behind it began to glow. A seal, a door, a gateway. Volok stared at the feed. She's not opening it, he whispered. She is the key. Behind him, the council broke into chaos. And on the deck below, Mira looked into the wall's light and said softly, It's time to go home. The light from the wall pulsed with a rhythm too deliberate to be random, like a heartbeat carved into the bones of the Celestis. Mira stepped forward, her small hand extended toward the glow, her breath calm. The dragon followed, moving in slow, deliberate coils, massive claws grazing the floor with barely a whisper. The metal beneath them warmed, not from heat, but from activation. Outside the chamber, alarms wailed. Seal the deck, screamed Admiral Rux in the command bridge. Cut power to subsection Theta, now. No response. Barked a technician. Manual overrides disabled. She's rerouting control systems through the relic interface. Impossible. Another snapped. That system was decoupled 5 centuries ago. No, muttered Volok, watching from the upper deck, face grim. It wasn't. We just forgot it remembered. The portal opened in complete silence. Not a hiss or thrum. Just absence, as if it erased the space it replaced. On the other side, A tunnel extended into blackness, but that void shimmered faintly with starlight patterns. Mira turned back to Toothy. "Come on," she said gently. "It's waiting." And the beast, older than any war, engineered by a vanished race to be perfect and alone, obeyed without hesitation. Inside the tunnel, gravity loosened. Mira floated, toes brushing the glowing runes beneath. Toothy flew beside her, wings folded tightly, like a serpent gliding through airless space. Behind them, the opening sealed itself, cutting off the world they knew. Ahead, the corridor widened into something impossible. It was not a room. It was a memory. Stars glimmered around them, but they did not twinkle. They pulsed with encoded light. Whole constellations spun in perfect rhythm. In the center, a vast sphere floated, a planet but not Earth. It resembled it, though. Oceans shimmered, continents glowed with artificial veins. Cities, alive. Mira gasped. "This is home." The word wasn't spoken, but she felt it. Not in her mind, but in her blood. Her marrow sang with the memory of it. She wasn't from that world, but she belonged to it. Behind her, Toothy shifted uneasily. The stars hummed louder. Suddenly, they were inside the planet, walking through a field of crystalline grass that bent toward Mira with reverence. Great structures rose in the distance, towers made of light, not stone, humming softly with the same rhythm as the glowing glyphs in Mira's drawings. At the center stood a monolith. Smooth, black, marked with spirals. She reached for it. "Do you remember me?" she whispered. A low tone answered, deep and maternal. Not in language, but in presence. The monolith vibrated. The glyphs she had drawn, spirals, triangles, orbits, blazed across its surface. One by one, lights flared to life across the world's surface. A planetary system, long dormant, breathed again. Back in the council chamber, horror bloomed like a contagion. "She's awakened it," Karen rasped. She's brought the old signal online. That planet, it's Terran Prime. The origin point. It was supposed to be dead." Volix shook his head. "No, it was never dead. It was locked. And she is the key," Seller whispered again. "How could we have not seen it?" On the surface of Terran Prime, Mira sat before the monolith as data streamed around her. Figures, languages, histories. Not forced in her mind, but offered. She accepted none, only watched. Toothy snarled suddenly, stepping forward. Something was coming. A ripple passed through the world, a tremor in time itself. The grass recoiled. The towers dimmed. The stars outside flickered. Mira turned. A second portal had opened behind them. From it stepped a being clad in obsidian armor that shifted like liquid, face hidden beneath a mask of jagged ivory. It radiated control, not chaos. Not hate, but silence, the kind that follows annihilation. It said nothing, raised no weapon. Yet Toothy growled low, body curling protectively around Mira. "I know you," she said quietly, standing. The figure cocked its head. "You're the one who made Toothy." Silence. "You didn't make him to serve. You made him to survive." The figure did not move, but something in the atmosphere fractured. The world dimmed. "You're not here to stop me," she said. "You're here to see if I'm ready." The air cracked like glass. Across the towers, lights flickered again, this time brighter. The stars aligned. The being stepped forward a single pace, then slowly, silently bowed. In response, the monolith's lights turned gold. The tests were over. Back aboard the Celestis, chaos reigned. Emergency protocols activated, but control centers failed one after another. A signal originating from Terran Prime now broadcast across the entire galactic network. Not a message, an invitation. Coordinates, a map, and one symbol glowing at its center, a spiral inside a triangle. Carinth slammed his fists into the console. She's triggering ancient systems we sealed 1,000 years ago. This isn't awakening, it's uprising. No, said Volix, a trace of wonder in his voice. It's inheritance. In the memory world, Mira approached the armored figure. She reached for its hand. You built them because you were afraid to lose, she said, not accusing, just stating. You made weapons that couldn't forget, but then they forgot why they were made. The figure remained silent. Its fingers opened slightly, revealing a piece of crystal. Pale blue. Warm. A tooth. She took it. Her expression softened. I'll give it back to him. I'll make him whole again. Toothy stepped closer, pressing its snout against her shoulder. The moment the tooth touched its flesh, a low vibration passed through both of them. Not pain. Restoration. Something ancient was healing. Behind them, the monolith dissolved into stardust, and in its place rose a new gate. One pointed outward. To everywhere. To all. I think, Mira said, this is what comes after. The dragon's wings unfurled. Not for war, but for flight. The armored being faded, leaving only the impression of a bow. A gesture of surrender or recognition. Maybe both. Mira stepped into the gate. Toothy followed, and in the darkness beyond, stars rearranged themselves into spirals of fire and light. A new pattern. A new map. One born not of conquest, but of remembering. And behind them, the world that had waited for millennia sighed in relief. Its child had come home. Stars bled into streaks of silver as Mira and Toothy emerged from the gate into open space. The void welcomed them, not empty but awake. Across parsecs, old machines hummed with renewed purpose. Towers long buried beneath crusted moons blinked back to life. Satellites, forgotten by time, pivoted toward the same coordinates. A single signal echoed, now, through every corner of the known galaxy. Spiral, triangle, tooth. On the Celestis, the Admiralty watched helplessly as every system they thought immutable bent toward the girl and her beast. Their most sacred codes were overwritten not with violence, but remembrance. They'd spent generations fearing the return of the architects. They never expected a child with dirty boots and a beast with curious eyes. She's not attacking, Volix said slowly, hands clenched behind his back. She's revealing. Revealing what? Admiral Rux snapped, his voice dry and thin. The design beneath our delusion, Seller murmured. Everything we built, our dominion, our classifications, our arrogance, it was scaffolding over something older, and it was returning. But Mira hadn't come to destroy. She stood at the center of the awakening, not as a conqueror, but as a restorer. Terran Prime had shown her what the universe forgot, what had buried beneath alloy and empire. She drifted now at the edge of a system long sealed, before a ring world of impossible scale, one constructed by the same minds that birthed Toothy. A ring built not for defense, but cultivation. Life had once thrived here. It had fallen silent. She touched a control panel, suspended in the black like a floating ember. Glyphs danced across her palm. The same spirals and triangles she had drawn since childhood, scrawled in dust and margin. Toothy watched her with unblinking trust. It had no doubt she would fix what was broken. The ring bloomed to life. Lights cascaded across its inner band, warming ice fields, reactivating biospheres, thawing what had been frozen for 10,000 years. Forests yawned awake. Oceans remembered the taste of moonlight. Animals, not beasts of war, but creatures of song and soil, emerged from stasis. This was not a weapon. It was a cradle, and it was opening for her. On the bridge of the Celestis, a silence fell deeper than static. She's reactivating entire systems, Rux said, stunned. Things we cataloged as ruins. We thought the war machines were the legacy of the precursors. They weren't, Volix cut in. They were a symptom. The real legacy was the restoration. A beat passed. Then what was the war for? Someone whispered. Volix looked down. To keep us from remembering we weren't alone. Mira walked among the forests of the ring world, toes sinking into damp moss as butterflies the size of her head danced through golden air. She spoke softly to Toothy. You weren't built to kill, she said. You were built to protect this. The dragon's eyes, once weapons, now shimmered with memory. It stretched its wings, letting solar winds glide through its translucent membranes. No longer a threat, now a guardian. From above, small crafts emerged, curious drones shaped like petals and feathers. They hovered around Mira, scanning, studying, then bowing. Recognition passed through them like a ripple. Acknowledgement. And they sang, not with mouths, but with pulses and beams of soft light. Harmonics that wove through Mira's bones like lullabies from stars. She turned toward Toothy, smiling. I think they're saying thank you. A new signal echoed from her body now, subtle, not invasive. A beacon of alignment. Not forced through command, but resonant with consent. It reached every world that had once been marked as forbidden. And one by one, those worlds responded. Not with weapons, but with light. On distant planets, alien children looked up at their skies and saw stars rearranging. On war-torn colonies, rusted gates opened to reveal gardens beneath. On derelict moons, ancient statues shed their cloaks of ash and turned toward the rising spiral. The universe wasn't ending. It was beginning again. The council scrambled for relevance. Their network disintegrated not from attack, but obsolescence. Communications now rerouted through old relay chains Mira had never seen but had already mastered. Their greatest weapons refused activation. Their most secure vaults opened with her presence alone. She's not leading an army, Sellers said. She's leading memory. And memory could not be stopped. Mira stood atop a hill overlooking the forests, Toothy curled beside her like a mountain of breathing metal. She pulled from her pouch the small crystal tooth the armored being had given her. It pulsed with quiet warmth. You still feel him, don't you? She asked Toothy. The dragon didn't speak, but its breath slowed, eyes dimming with old ache. I think he's still in there. All of them are. And she was right. For within the awakening systems, stored consciousness flickered back online. Recordings, guardians, teachers. But Mira didn't let them take over. She didn't let them reassert control. She listened. And so the dragon, once a beast of wrath, became a steward. And Mira, its tooth puller, its healer, its child, became the key. The last gate opened that day, orbiting a sun long thought dead. Behind it, a library made of planetary rings, where time flowed like water and thought moved faster than light. A place where the first songs of the architects still echoed. Mira walked into that gate not alone, but accompanied by voices now. Not only Toothy, but the gentle presence of minds once silenced. Not gods, not rulers, just caretakers, just memory. In their presence, Mira did not kneel. She smiled, and they smiled back. On the Celestis, all instruments fell quiet. No beacons returned. No pulses responded. The council chambers emptied. Rux resigned in silence. Volix watched the stars reorient and chose not to interfere. Seller vanished entirely, leaving behind only a single phrase scrawled across the ancient marble. To pull the tooth, you must first earn the dragon's trust. And Mira had. Now, in the silence that followed awakening, a new signal went out. A signal of invitation, not conquest, not demand. A simple frequency, a spiral, a triangle, a single word, return. And across the stars, Those who had forgotten felt a pull deep in their bones. A pull toward the place they had once called home, even if they had never seen it. Toothy flew ahead now, a great, glowing serpent spiraling through nebulae reborn. And Mira, resting on his back, whispered to the stars, "It's okay. I'm here now. Let's fix everything." Behind them, the old universe fell silent. Ahead of them, a new one waited with open arms.